men plus the keeper around the batsman.
There we go. Fleming took the last one. Merv Hughes before him.
That's a hat-trick to Shane Warne, a great moment in his career. What a catch by David Boot. You won't see many better catches than forward short leg than that one. The Aussies are all around, and have a look at that.
Welcome back, ladies and gents, to another episode of the Supercoach Tragics podcast, BBL edition. This is episode 3. Recording Monday night, one more day before BBL starts. Looking forward to game 1 tomorrow night. I'm actually going to go watch the game, which is pretty exciting. So with us tonight, we have a special guest. We'll start with our guest, Damon from SC Hub, mate. Tell us a bit about yourself.
G'day, mate. How are you? Thanks for having me on, fellas. Always a pleasure. I think I was on this time last year as well, discussing all things BBL, which is always good. I've actually just released our special edition episode via my podcast, Supercoach Edge, and I called it the BBL Supercoach is almost the pre-season to NRL pre-season or AFL pre-season. So it's nice to sort of get your fix of Supercoach and ready and roaring to get into it.
Awesome, man. I think that so just for those that don't really know much about you, what are you? You did a bit of work with the SC Hub, correct?
Yeah, I'm in the SC Hub for this BBL season anyway, the little league that they have on, and took out the chocolates last year, which is good. So I'm looking to hold my claim to the Iron Throne again this year. But yeah, predominantly I do a lot of work in the AFL Supercoach space. So for those of you who are watching, I imagine a lot of your audience are probably NRL based players and coaches. So yeah, anyone that's partial to AFL probably are familiar with me. But yeah, I'm a complete AFL Carlton nuffy. So yeah, I'm well versed in that area there. But yeah, you can catch the podcast on AFL season when it kicks off in the pre-season. And yeah, I mean, BBL Supercoach is kind of another avenue of mine I'm always passionate about. You'll probably see over my shoulders here the Stars and Renegades as well, because I've done a fair bit of work with them over the journey in the video space outside of Supercoach. So my loyalties are split right down the middle.
Very cool, mate. So what we'll do as well is just to make sure, we always do with all our guests, we make sure that in the comment section and on our page, make sure you share all the stuff that you're doing, mate. We want to plug as much as we can for you because you're helping us out right now. So anything that goes on the SC Tragics page, mate, it's free to use. You can post whatever you want up there, get some word out for your pod as well. So
awesome. Thanks, mate. Thanks, boys. And same goes for you guys as well. I imagine there's probably a few people as well that play AFL that are keen on NRL. So yeah, happy to do likewise.
I'm keen on NRL, but I do play AFL very poorly, so maybe I should pay attention to your podcast myself. Awesome. Thanks, mate.
Yeah.
All right, next up we'll have returning again, and that's Roscoe. Roscoe, mate, welcome back.
Hello, boys. Good to be back. I'm pretty excited. This time tomorrow we'll be seeing some cricket at last, some BBL. I'm very excited. It's just seems like it's been forever with no Supercoach racing this time around. Yeah, but it's finally here, and we'll be scrambling to fix our sides about this time tomorrow, and yeah, we'll be ready to go.
Awesome. Well, breaking news, guys. I'm in Canberra right now. I'm in my shed, and it is raining. So we might get a bit of movement with the ball tomorrow. So any of those swing bowlers might be pretty handy to dunk in your team. So I actually played a game yesterday, and I was moving the ball like crazy. So yeah, so it's going to be a bit of movement in the pitch there. So those, I think maybe players like Faruqi, you might be a shot for a nice little pod move there. All right, thanks, Roscoe. And also our illustrious leader here, Glenn. Welcome back, mate. How's your preparations going?
Yeah, good, mate. I'm excited. I can't wait for some cricket to get going tomorrow. I feel like I've landed on a side I'm happy with. Whether or not it's a side that does well, it's another argument, but hopefully.
Awesome. All right, let's get cracking, guys. So first off, we're going to start off with a few of the trial matches and the scores we've got in the trial matches there. So, Roscoe, you got a few written down there, mate? Share with us?
Yeah, so there was a few trial games that were played on the weekend. So there was one yesterday, which was the Stars Academy versus the Renegades. So Mackenzie Harvey got 51 off 44, but they didn't have Finch or Wells playing in that game. Jack Prestridge got 42 not out off 27. For the Brisbane Heat club match that they had just an intra-club match, Josh Brown, 64 off 28 and 2 for 4. Most likely probably won't start, but he looks a good prospect and he's at 42k. I think he will play at some stage, but I probably reckon it won't be till Billings and Munro probably go back after their little stint over here as well. Nathan McSwen, who's been signed as a local replacement for the Heat, 51 off 30 as well. Matty Renshaw, 49 out of 33, so he's in a bit of form. And then for the Stars Renegades game, Marcus Stoinis, 62 off 26. Joe Clark, 41 off 21. Tom Rogers, 3 for 50. The confusion of Tom Rogers, I tell you what, this is going to be very confusing for Supercoach. Jono Wells, 102 off 50. I watched some of that game. He was absolutely belting them. But the only thing is with him, he'll probably come in about at 5, so he's probably not really that relevant for Supercoach. Finch got 79 off 46. And then the Scorchers game, Cam Brancroft, 58 off 34. Josh Inglis, 57 off 29, batting at 4. Matt Kelly, 2 for 27. And Pete Hatzozu, 2 for 22. And then in some local T20 comp in Tasmania, Caleb Jewell, 58 off 57. Mac Wright coming back from injury, 105 off 50. And Ben McDermott, 36 off 22. So there's some players in form there. So hopefully they can turn it into some numbers for us for BBL.
Yeah, that's the thing about Wellesley. He can hit a ball when he wants to, but he does bat real low. He's that staple in the side that you want him to bat real low, so he can. If there is a collapse, he's there to be very stable for the team. He's been a very good team player for a long time. So, but yeah, just keep an eye out. Make sure if he does get a high up in the order, he might be an option. But I think he's going to be batting around 5 or 6. So. All right, guys, we'll move on. Well, we've got the team list in, the uncut team list in for tomorrow night. So I'll start off with that. So we'll start with the Sydney Thunder. We've got Ben Cutting, Ollie Davies, Brennan Doggett, Falhaza Faruqi, Matthew Gilks, Toby Gray, young rookie there, Chris Green as vice captain, Alex Hales, Baxter Holt, Nathan McAndrew, Alex Ross, Riley Russo, Daniel Sams, Dorinda Sandhu, and Jason Sanger as captain. So that's the Sydney Thunder. We'll move on to the Stars now. So they're named the 13-man squad. So we've got Zampa as captain, Trent Bolt, Joe Burns, Hilton Cartwright, Joe Clark, Brodie Crouch, Nathan Coulter-Nile, Clint Hinchcliffe, Nick Larkin, Tom Rogers, Mark Stoinis, Bo Webster, and lastly from England we've got Luke Wood. I'll go to you, Glenn, first. Who do you see dropping out? Say we'll start with the Star side. Who do you see dropping out here? It's a tricky one.
Hinchcliffe would be one, and I can't remember who the other bowler you just threw up then was at the end.
Luke Wood?
Couch?
No, wasn't Couch either. Sorry, mate. I should have been.
The last one I said was Luke Wood, but yeah.
No, it wasn't him. But Hinchcliffe would be one of them that I'd imagine, and the other
Tom Rogers.
Tom Rogers was the other I was going to say.
Yeah.
I'm not sure on Rogers, but I think Hinchcliffe drops out. Personally, I feel like Hinchcliffe's a player, given that they've only got one spin in the side. Unless they use Webster, he does bowl a bit of spin and a bit of medium pace. But yeah, I'm guessing those two. What about you, Damo? What do you think?
Yeah, it's a bit of a tough one, I think, for the Stars. It's not as obvious. It probably comes down to as well. I mean, there was a bit of a question mark over Joe Burns's health in terms of his fitness. So we're assuming that he's been selected because he is fit. If that's the case, then you probably think he should play, but hasn't really had much match practice, I guess, off the back of that. But yeah, I think between probably him and Tom Rogers as well. I mean, Rogers, as we saw in the practice game, reportedly he was one of the openers there. So maybe they've slated him as, to fill in that spot if Burns isn't fit. So I reckon either one of those will probably make way. And then in terms of the other one, it's really hard to say. Webster, you can see playing a bit of a role. Yesteryear maybe would have dropped out, but yeah, I'm not too sure of the second one. Yeah, as you said, Hinchcliffe potentially, but yeah, it's a bit of a tough ask, that one.
Yeah, or Couch is possible too.
I'm interested to see who's going to open with Clark because it's all in the open. I don't think Stoinis is going to open. I think Stoinis is going to come in at 4. But does Burns open? Does Tom Rogers open? Or does Cardi open? It's just no one seems to know. It's the unknown. I mean, at least we'll find out the first game. So at least we're going to know by tomorrow. So it'll be interesting to see what they do.
I like Cardi as an opener as well. I think Cardi is a good option to open. He can smack a ball too, but yeah. So there's three options there, like you said, that could open with him. So yeah.
I mean, Larkin could even open too. Really, I mean, there's just options there galore. So see what they do. Yeah.
All right, I'll go to you, Roscoe. I know they named the 15-man squad in the Thunder. A few guys here that should drop out. What do you reckon Toby Gray's chances are getting a start, mate? Young fella.
I don't know if he's going to get a start. I've seen him. I saw him play in the Shield match against the Warriors a couple of weeks ago, which he looked pretty good. Took 3 wickets in that game. I don't think he'll make the team. I think they'll run with Chris Green and Jason Sanger as their spinners. So for that squad, I think probably Gray drops out. I think Baxter Holt probably drop out, which means Jilks will probably keep. I'd say probably Doggett drops out, and I'd say probably the other spot's going to be between Oliver Davies and Alex Ross. Will be one of the others who will miss out. I think that's what I'd probably go with.
I can't really see him dropping Ross. I think it might be Davies. I think Ross is very much in that similar boat as John Wells, where he's that kind of like he plays it safe for a little bit and can do what he needs to do towards that middle to the end of the innings.
Yeah, he's a good finisher too. To have their Ross as well.
Yeah. Your thoughts, Damo?
Yeah, I think you've pretty much hit the nail on the head there in terms of the guys will drop out. I think it's a bit more clear cut with the Thunder. Their bowling attack is quite strong as well, and good to see as well. Just as an aside, that Dan Sams is going to be making his BBL debut for the season. So obviously under a massive injury cloud, but it makes me wonder as well, just having said that given they're playing the 4 games across the 2 rounds, if they're going to try and rest him, or perhaps he plays limited bowling overs as well. It'd be an interesting one to see, but everyone's going to have him, so the risk is really negated, I think.
Yeah.
Especially given they're playing 4 games in like 8 days as well.
Yeah, I haven't got Sams in my team at the moment, just because of that. To get back, like the fact that he has that cloud over his head, and he's risky as hell because if he does play all 4 games, he's a dangerous guy not to own. But I'm just a bit concerned because, like for example, they do have another death bowler there in Faruqi who could potentially do a similar job to Sams and give him a rest. So to me, I think Sams definitely has that risk factor of actually being rested. So.
In the World Cup, Farouk did bowl death overs in all but 1 game, which is versus England. So there's a good chance he does bowl death overs, or possibly 2 up front, 1 at 12 or 13, and then 1 at the end.
Yeah, maybe. I think so. Alrighty, so tonight, guys, we're going to go through 2 more teams. So I'll start with you, Glenn. We'll go with the Sixers. You got a team list there that you think?
I've written out what I think, but that doesn't, it's open for questioning, I guess. So I've got Philippe opening with Patterson, which I like that. It's a very good opening pair with Vince at 3, Moses Henriquez at 4, Jordan Silk, DC, Hayden Kerr, Sean Abbott, Ben Dwarshuis, Chris Jordan, and Sock. It makes my 11.
Honestly, that's a solid looking team, really. It's
balanced.
It's very balanced. Yeah, exactly right. They've got those guys that are solid all rounders. We all know Abbott can smack a ball too, and he's one of their best bowlers. So definitely, it's going to be a scary team to be playing against them, I reckon. Ross?
Yeah, I think Glenn's pretty much on the money there. The only change I can see is I think Todd Murphy will get the nod over Sock myself. I think Todd Murphy's an up-and-comer, and I think he's going to get the nod. But there's also been some talk about some injury cloud under some of the Sixers players as well, which was Ben Dwarshuis, Todd Murphy, Chris Jordan, and also Curtis Pattinson as well. There's all been talk on them possibly being out as well. So keep an eye out for that.
I read the stuff in Dwarshuis.
Anyone you got your eye on there, Damo, for the Sixers?
For my team, I did have early on Abbott there's a little bit of a, I don't know if he's much of a pod now, but when it first opened, he was actually my first pick just because I love watching him. He's one of my favourite players to watch, but in a super coach sense as well, we know he's just so consistent across the journey. I think he averaged around about 70 odd last season as well. So he's one that you could really build your team around as a bit of a cornerstone from week to week. But I couldn't fit him in to tie up that much cash in a player that, even though having said that how solid he is a player, given that there's so many double game matches across the first 2 rounds, I just couldn't justify it. But yeah, I could certainly see why some people would select him, that's for sure. But apart from him, I think I'll just wait and see until the Sixers approach their double, which I don't know when's their double. I haven't really looked that far ahead. Yeah, so I'd consider it then. Obviously, bringing him in, and the likes of their bowling attack as well, which is pretty impressive. Solid team.
Yeah, I'm thinking of looking at bringing those Sixers players in round 4, because these are the guys that can play one game and still give you a good score. So there's players like Abbott, and I won't go say all of them because there'll be a few there that maybe Glenn and Ross will talk about. But I'll just go to I like Abbott and even Philippe as another option there that can get some pretty good score there for you. So I'll be starting around 4. So I know I feel safe having those Sixers solidified in my team for the single game week. Glenn, anyone you got your eye on there, mate?
Oh, there's a few, mate. But so points per dollar, I like Vince. I think at under 100K, he could, by the time they get to round 5, be easily 120, 130. He wasn't impressive as he last year as he has been in the past. He only averaged 26.1 last year with but in season 10 he had scores of 145 and 133. So we know he can turn it on, Vince, and he has been playing here with the World Cup, a lot of the English players. So,
I think also Vince has been getting better and better every year in BBL. Like, he started off getting a few low scores, and then every year he just keeps getting better and better. So I think he's getting used to our soil a little bit more because he's playing here every year. So
absolutely. And the other one that I like, obviously, is Philippe. I think that the keeper spot looks a little ugly this year, and it's the reason why 50% of coaches at the moment have got Philippe in their side. I've seen a lot of sides with Gilks, Philippe, and Inglis, and I don't want to correct them, but they're gonna realise what they've done wrong round 2.
That's true. Roscoe, anyone you got your eye on there we haven't already mentioned?
No, I'm not starting with any Sixers, but if I did probably run with anyone, I think Abbott's going to be a good shout. He's obviously very consistent, as Damo said, and obviously Vince is, a good price as well. But yeah, I think it'll all depend on what happens, whether all these players play or not in this first game. There could be a decent shout there, Pod in Naveed if he gets a run. The spinner for the Sixers, if he gets a run, he might be an option, but I'm not starting with any Sixers at the moment.
Yeah, well, there's 2 that I'd like to have a look at, just mainly for the double game week. I'm not going to start with any of them at the start of the year. And that's been a guy that's been pretty solid in the shadow of Abbott for a long time. That's Ben Dwarshuis. I really like what he does with he gets a lot of wickets, gets decent economy, a lot of movement, which is great. And the other one Glenn touched on earlier is Curtis Patterson. He did a really good job for the Scorchers last year. I had him for quite a long time in my team, and he was getting some great scores, getting them quickly as well. So these are the guys I'll be looking at, obviously, for the double game round in round 5. And last but not least, I'll be keeping a very solid eye on him for a while, and that's Dan Christian. You can't ever rule out Dan Christian. He can do anything on his day. So I've been burnt by having him, and I've been burnt by not having him. He's a scary one to have, Supercoach. So
we'll just shoot a couple of numbers at you for the players that you have pointed out. So Patterson is 127K. He Supercoach average last year of 43.8 of an average of 30.07. His strike rate's 142.18. Did he have 4 tons last year? I don't know where I've written that there. 400, maybe it was 400 scores. But I really like Patterson. He really impressed me last season. I think he's a genuine batsman, and he'll face a lot of balls because he's an opening batsman. Yeah. The other one I wanted to shoot out at you was that we didn't talk about was Hayden Kerr. So I'm not a fan of someone who bats and can be a 5th or a 6th bowling option. But Kerr's been in phenomenal form. And last year, so he's 157K, 600, with an average of 54.3, with a strike rate of 144.76. But he took 25 wickets last season with an economy of 7.50. That's only 5 less than Siddle, but Siddle bowls in a lot better spots than what Kerr was doing. So Kerr wasn't even bowling out in every game. So he really impresses me, Kerr. And if he gets the role that's right, I think he's someone you want to look at for Supercoach.
You can think a little pod like it.
Yeah.
Alrighty, guys. So, anyone else got anything on the Sixers they want to talk about, or should we move on to the Renegades? All right, Renegades it is. All right, Glenn, you got a team list there, mate? Ready to go?
I do. Look, I don't know how well I've done with this one, but if I've got it wrong, just blame Ross.
It's always Ross's fault.
It's always Ross's fault.
Yeah.
In case anyone doesn't know, it's always Ross's
It's
fault.
always my fault.
Finch,
Ask the wife.
yeah. I won't go there. Finch, Marsh, Harvey, Madison, Wells, Russell, Harper, Hussein, Rogers, Richo, and Majid.
Thoughts on that one, Damo?
I've got to pull up I might get you to throw to someone else just because I've got to pull up the team list. But I think you've pretty much hit the nail on the head there, Oscar.
What are your thoughts there, Ross?
I think Nick Madison and Sam Harper will be opening the batting for the Renegades. I think Finch will come in at 3, and I think Guptill will probably come in at 4. Wells at 5, but that's only while Sean Marsh is out. But that's about where I've got it. I think
Can I just speak to Ross? Because I personally would open with Harper Harvey. I've actually liked when those two.
They opened up last year. They look good when they both opened
absolutely,
last
year. And I mean they don't let many dot balls through. And I mean I imagine they may even open when they play in Melbourne, just because of the size of the ground and the way that they play. You know, they use very few dot balls. They hit 2s and 3s, and I love watching them run between the wickets. But you're right. I mean, I just threw up an order in what
I just don't know if Harvey's going to even get a game, especially once Marsh is back. They've got pretty stacked in that top order.
Yeah, so I forgot Marsh has got an
mean?
injury, by the way, guys. So drop Marsh out of that conversation. Yeah. And
but I just don't think Finch is going. I don't think Finch is going to open. I mean, that's only my thought, but I think he'll come in at 3.
He's, you know, he's just played a World Cup, and you know, he's still a pretty good cricketer. But I agree with you. I can see a scenario where he bats down and Harvey opens with, you know, Gupta will definitely open after round 5.
Do you think Guptill opens? I don't know if he's going to open.
Yeah, he might bat 3rd. I retract that statement. Blame Ross for that.
Meanwhile, Damo's finding his side. What do you got your side there, Damo?
I'm just trying to track down the order that they had for the Gades, that is against the Stars in the practice game. I think they ran with who was it? I think Finch came in at 3. I think it was.
Yeah, he did. He did. Harper and Madison opened, and Finch came in at 3, and Wells came in at 4.
Yeah, I think that's probably what they'll run with. Just it provides a bit of balance, I think. Finch, as you know, he hasn't been in the best form either, and it's probably better for him anyway from a mindset point of view, just so the pressure's off him. He's not an opener, can come in and whack some balls. So work out better that way, I think. And I really rate Harper as well as an opener. Really good string to his bow. And yeah, he's a solid player all around.
I just love that he just goes for the ball. Like he just goes for the ball. Like he just doesn't hold back. Like he's good. He's really good to watch. He's really good. When he gets going, he gets going. But he's a bit inconsistent. But geez, he's good to watch.
They signed didn't they? Isn't Hanscombe joined them?
Yeah,
so he'll come in. Marsh will go out. So where do you think Hanscombe bats? About 5 then?
I think that's his spot. I reckon probably middle to lower order. Just because he's that guy also that's that team player that'll just settle things down if they have a collapse. So
is he going to be in the team? Like honestly,
I thought he was a depth signing, really.
Yeah, I thought he was too.
Yeah, but I think like we said before that Marsh is injured. They might need that depth pretty early on. So yeah,
I don't know. I just thought
We'll start with Damo. Any players on this team, mate, that you're interested in, maybe for the round 5 double anyway?
Yeah, I haven't really looked that far. I mean, apart from Majid, who I might be starting on my bench as a bit of a potential loophole option if my other bench player fails. There isn't really anyone that I'm looking at the moment. It all comes down to, I think, price and price fluctuations when it gets to that point in time as well. You've got Dre Russ as well as another player, but he will be missing round 5, unfortunately. But could I potentially bring him in for his last hurrah in round 4, and then depending as well on his price fluctuation. But yeah, if anyone's dropped in price as a bit of a cheapie, might be looking to get them in. But I do like, as I said, I'm a fan of Harper as well. Might be a nice one to bring in, especially if it provides a bit of flexibility with the wicketkeeper bat flexibility. So yeah, just a wait and see for me. But those are probably the 2 players that I'll be looking at.
Like it. Glenn, anyone there that you're looking at that could be a good option?
If I was going to start anyone early, the 2 I'd be looking at would obviously be Rahman, Mujeeb. But the other one I don't mind is Hussain at 105k. The one that Ross mentioned earlier. Blame Ross again. But I like that one, Ross. Ben mentioned it to us the other night when he was on, and I actually took a good look at that, and I thought, you know what, that's not a bad shout. At 105k, people are looking for people to stack away on their bench, and you want to stack away people that you know what their role is if you're going to buy forward, in my opinion. But have a good look at what they do early, the Renegades, and if the roles are right. I really like the bowling lineup this year with Rahman, Richo, Rogers and Hussain. I feel like Kane Richo struggled in the past as a solitary bowler in that side. I feel like he's been flying all on his own. I think that that those 2 are a nice addition to that club, and then add Russell into that as well. I think that, the Renegades should put up, it looks like an evenly balanced comp to me this year, more so than other years in the past.
Yeah, like probably the worst team last year was at the Heat, and they've done a really good job recruiting. The Renegades had a pretty weak team last year, and they've recruited quite well as well. So I think my favourite team, the Thunder, are looking to be probably down for worst. I think anyway. I think they had probably the worst pick of the lot, unfortunately. Anyone, Roscoe, that you're looking at from the Renegades, mate, that we haven't already touched on?
Yeah, well, I've got Hussain in my team. Just like what I saw from him in the last few games, and in the T20 and that. He's at 105k, as we said. He's only 1% owned as well. So he's an ultra super pod. So I'm going to run with him. And obviously the Mujeeb's another one that I'll be jumping on at some stage, probably near the double. A Harper maybe for the double, but there's not really anyone else. It depends on when Marsh gets back too.
Yeah.
So he might be another one.
Can I just mention one that nobody's mentioned that I think that people should really be looking at in this side is Madison. Madison bowled more overs last season than Matt Short, just slightly. It was the runs that let him down with the bat, but he actually bowled, I think, all but 2 games. Is that right? Or I think it was all but 2 games. I might be wrong.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to bowl as much this year. If they've got Hussain and Mujeeb both in the team, I don't think he's going to get much bowling.
Yeah, possibly.
That's only I don't know. Damo, what do you think?
Yeah, well, just looking at the practice game, he did roll the arm over for 3 overs, but yeah, that's because the internationals weren't there. That were still yet to arrive. So yeah, I reckon it's probably a bit of a risk, obviously, to start now. But there's no real need to start someone like Madison, I don't think, until they approach their double. So you can probably get a little bit of a snapshot as to whether or not he's taking any overs, or he might bowl 1 or 2 here and there, depending on, I guess, the game, how it unfolds on the day, but and form of other bowlers as well. But yeah, just to wait and see in terms of that. But if he does, it's a bonus as well. We know what he can do with the bat as well. He can be very much hit and miss, but that's what you get when you it's sort of high risk, high reward, and yeah, just see how it unfolds.
Yep, like it. I'll talk about 2 that I really think that haven't really had much spoken about him too much in this so far. I mean, that's Kane Richardson. I think he's pretty expensive now, but if you hold off and maybe might go down a little bit, come around 4 or 5. And the other one as well, very volatile. I'm not sure if he's paid this much money for him, but he definitely has the upside, and that's Guptill. So I think he's a 160 at the moment as well. So if he does look around that 3 or 4 batting spot, is that an option there, Glenn?
Yeah, 100%. But I mean, he's priced out. I mean, I can't remember what Guptill's price was. What was his price?
160.
He's 160.
That's not as bad as some of the others coming out at 180. I mean, the thing is that he comes in round 5, which is when they've got their double. If he plays both, Guptill's someone I'd definitely be looking at. I mean, Guptill's a class act.
Oh yeah,
it's incredible. But I mean, him and Faf, I just think Supercoach are a little bit insane with the prices. Sometimes they put these guys in at all rounder prices. You know what I mean? And the batting spot is the most volatile position in Supercoach. you know, a batsman can come out and hit 100 and he'll come out and hit none. You know, we'll get nothing at all.
Yeah.
But he's a class act, mate. I've been a big fan of Guptill for years.
All good. Anything else on the Renegades before we move on, guys?
I'd like to nail down the order if we could. Sorry, I mean our viewers probably. I didn't quite come away with understanding. So who do we think opens? Did you say?
Well, I think Harper and Madison. That's what I think.
Yeah.
You agree with that?
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. There you have it, gents.
But I'm not always right.
See how it goes.
If it's wrong, blame me.
Mm-hmm.
No, I really like the bowling attack of this side this year. The problem that I've always had with the Gauge is that you get a bit scared to touch the bowlers because they don't post big enough scores to defend. Hence the reason I'm worried about Bolt this season. But you know, they can click in their gear. I mean, I'm a big fan of Sean Marsh, but the fact that he's out, but if Sean Marsh and Guptill bat in the same side with Finch and go off on their day, you know, you've got Russell down at number 5 there, number 6. So.
And you've got Wells as well to finish it off.
Yeah, well, I like Wells. I mean, Wells would be somebody who'd be super coach relevant if he didn't bat so low, you know.
Yeah.
Like I generally don't touch batsmen out of the top 4. He still averaged 43.1 last year, by the way, Wells.
No, he pots along quietly. So.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that pretty much wraps everything up. Let's talk. We've got a couple of questions though on the Facebook post. So I'll start with the first one here. So Ricardo John Woods has said, still struggling to choose between Jay Sanger and Russo. Will Sanger even bowl any overs? And is he worth the extra 70K? I'll go to you, Roscoe. What are your thoughts there, mate?
Sanger's now that Putty is not probably looking at playing the first 2 games, because he's obviously still in Pakistan playing over there. I think Sanger's probably the better option of the 2. If Quadir was in the squad, then I'd probably say Rosso. We know what Rosso's capable of. He can a bit rocks and diamonds. He can do big scores, and he'll either go big or he'll get nothing, basically. So, but I don't know how many overs Sanger's going to bowl. I think he'll probably bowl maybe 1 or 2 overs, maybe. I don't know, but given that, I'd probably go with Sanger just.
Damo, do you think Sanger's worth 70K more?
Yeah, well, I've actually got him in my team. Saying I don't know if he's probably worth the extra 70K compared to Rossau, but Rossau, like you mentioned there, was he's very much up and down with his recent form. I personally got Rossau on the bench just for that safety net, really. So if he does go out for a duck, knock on wood that he doesn't, but in the first game, I'll probably look to bypass him. But it's hard to always do that on the double. But with Sanger anyway, like last year, he was probably one of the more informed players with the bat. He was very consistent. He had 2 matches there where he scored a 2 and a 6, but apart from that, his lowest was a 22. Then he had a 31, a couple of scores in the 50. He's got a 90 as well. And then he got a couple of wickets here and there, just bowling an over or 2. And then he's also named the captain as well this season. So who knows, he might throw himself into the mix if he thinks it's just my time to roll the arm over and get a sneaky. So he might bowl himself at the death, or just to try and clean up the tail of the opposing team. But yeah, I think of the 2, it comes down again depending on the budget of your team and balance. Rossau obviously comes in 70K cheaper. But I think Sanger will score more over the course of the journey of the season, I reckon.
I just want to say 2 more things on Sanger, just while I think of it. That Sanger's in pretty ordinary form at the moment, which kind of worries me too. He got dropped from the Marsh Cup game the other week. But obviously, maybe now that he's the captain, he might, get himself going. But the other thing is too, being captain, does he not bowl himself as well? Because a lot of these guys that are captains don't tend to bowl themselves. So that might be just a couple more things to keep in mind.
Yeah. So, Glenn, I know you've had a few thoughts of the idea of what a captain role does to a player. It can do one of 2 things. It can be like a Maxwell, where he wants to take over. What are your thoughts there, mate?
Yeah, well, I agree. I think, you see some players like Moses and other players out there that are captains, and they tend to not want to bowl themselves, especially if they're a part-time bowler. But then you've got others who are selfish, like Maxwell, who sees an opportunity, says, yes, wickets have fallen, my turn to bowl, and jumps right in there. So what I would say to people on Sanger is wait and look for the teams tomorrow at 6:45. You'll probably get the answers you need from that as to what's going to go. I will say that first 4 games, they've got a couple of their bowling on that are very spin-friendly decks. So I'm anticipating, if they only name one spinner, that Sanga's a real good chance to throw in Oliver Day to throw in a few overs. So just try and see the side and then work out from there whether or not you think, it's all guesstimate for all of us. Like we can only go on what we know in the past and based on what we see with the team genetic or the makeup of the side, and just hope that, we get the decisions more right than wrong. And we're not soothsayers.
Yeah. Well, that's my theory on this is that Sanger will bat in a similar position, like probably maybe a little still higher up in the order, and so are also. Then you got to look at there's a strong chance that Jason Sanger bowls a couple of overs, has a chance for a few wickets. Probably unlikely he gets the economy rate bonus because he probably hasn't bowled 3, but he still has that chance of extra points. So that in itself tells me that I'd actually pay the 70k extra to get Sanger over Rosso. But it also depends on what you're doing with that 70k. If you're turning someone like Chris Green, for example, and you're turning him into a bolt, you know what I mean? That's something like, it obviously depends on how everything goes, but it can definitely help your team a little bit more. So, but I personally like Sanger over that. So, Glenn?
I was just going to say, so points per dollar wise, Rosso makes a lot of sense. 105k is a nice price. Sanger, you are paying a little overs, but he's got the better upside from my perspective. I think Rosso could bat before him. It's some debate about 3 or 4 which way they go. Either way, Sanger will probably get a bat. Again, too, like the other thing I would suggest to people to do is if you're really looking at Supercoach from the right angle, is to look at who bats and who bowls first, because who bowls first, your death bowlers are going to get to bowl out. If they bowl second, that doesn't always play out. It could, but not always. And I'm really worried about the Stars and the Thunder, to be honest, putting up scores that are defendable.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Ricardo, I hope we answered your question there, mate. I know there was a bit of back and forth there, but I think we all agree that Sanger's a pretty good option there. And if you can't afford him, Rosso is pretty much a good option as well. But I think, personally, I think Sanger over Rosso. All right. Next question from Matthew Gibson. In what order would you rank the top 4 Stars 100k bowlers? So these bowlers are Wood, NCN, Couch, and Zampa. So I'll start with you, Damo. How would you rank them?
In terms of bowling ability?
Or probably more Supercoach points, I'd say.
Overall Supercoach. I'd reckon Zampa, just for that security. I think he's 100%. The more reliable of the 4. Then, in terms of if we're talking potential ceiling, Coulter Nile is one that sticks out to me, and super underpriced, I reckon, as well at his price point. He's currently in my team on the bench, but again, there's always that worry about his fitness. He's always perennially rested for their double games, but you think he wouldn't first, round in, even though they got the back-to-back games. And then probably, Couch and Wood. Probably hard to separate, but I'd say Zampa, NCN, and then Wood and Couch next up.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. What are your thoughts there, Ross?
I'm going the same order as Damon. I think he's nailed it there, but obviously NCN's a bit of an issue with his injuries. He always seems to be injured a lot, and it does, as Damon said, gets rested. He might only play 1 or 2, but you'd have to think first up that he's going to play both games. But I haven't seen him playing any Marsh Cup or Shield or anything either lately, so I'm not too sure how much cricket he's actually played.
Yeah. Glenn?
Yeah, I agree. I think Zampa's job security puts him at number 1 alone, and we know his role. NCN's definitely my pick for second, especially if they bat first, because he doesn't go too bad with the bat either. I'm a bit concerned on NCN. He doesn't seem to put 2 games together in a row sometimes. I don't know a lot on Wood, to be honest. Only what I've read. I haven't actually seen a lot of Wood. And Couch I'm a big fan of, but his job security is a little bit sketchy, isn't it? He gets moved in and out a bit.
Just echo everyone else as well. Same order. Zampa, clear daylight. NCN. The thing with NCN is his injury is his back. He off that as his back and his side strains always seems to be that same thing. And I'm a bowler myself, and I know how bad back. If I can't play, if I play 1 week and my back's all the week after, I'm gone for 2 weeks. And I'm an old man though, so but yeah, back injuries they can linger, they can hang around for quite a long time, and the rehab on back injuries is quite extensive. So, yeah, if he has one bad bowl, and it could just be one step off, maybe a little slip out on his left foot when he's landing foot. So, but yeah, got the same water there. I hope we answered your question there, Matthew Gibson. So, last question, guys, and it's a pretty easy one. It's going to be pretty awkward though, because you asked Brendan Thurston, where can I find this pod? Okay, so we'll post it on the group chat, on the Facebook page, and then we'll also post our YouTube and our Spotify in the comments as well, so you can find it there. There's no point answering this question right now because you're not listening to it clearly. So, but we'll make sure you will hear the answer when we post it. So, Brendan, I hope you become a regular listener. I hope we can help out. So,
and I post all Damo stuff, all Honeyball stuff. I'm forever, as you know, I'm forever posting all that stuff. I keep it on Twitter and I post it on Facebook. So I will do that again tonight, like I did for Honeyball the other night. Everything that's important, and his content's really good. Like I'm an NRL, BBL nut, but I have a little crack at our AFL last year, and Damo will tell you I sent him a sneaky, look at my side, give me a bit of a hand. And he's so knowledgeable, you know. And the good thing about Damo is he actually takes the time to explain it to you. And it was really interesting, some of the stuff he sent to me that made it a little bit easier, and I appreciate it.
Awesome. No worries, anytime.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that pretty much wraps everything up tonight. Is there anything else anyone wants to bring up before we close off?
No, just the Shane Warne Cup. We've got 70 members this season. It's all been up and going. I just want to say thank you to the boys that are helping. So Dan obviously makes up all the charts and does all that beautiful, pretty work that we got. And I do usually all the scoring. But this year, a couple of blokes have stepped in to give me a hand in Luke Greaves, is it? And Matty and Alan.
And Stoney's giving us a hand as well. So
that's right. Oh, that's right. Of course, tips as well. So just want to say thank you to those guys because it makes it much more fun, you know. Like, and for the two that haven't jumped in yet, Tomo and Fish. I don't want to name you, but hurry up.
Well, one last thing before we go, make sure you give us another plug, Damo. So let us know where to find you again and where our viewers can find you for, if not BBL, at least AFL season.
Before we go,
you can.
Sorry, keep going, mate. I was going to say before we go, can we all name a pod each? Come back to you and say what you're going to say. Damon.
Yes. Yeah, go ahead. We'll round at the pods if you like.
Yeah. So start with you, Roscoe. Any pods that you really like this season?
Yeah, Hossein.
Hossein?
Yep.
They come up with the idea and don't even have a pod to offer. Give me a second. I'm on fire tonight.
With mine, I'll let you get some reading time in.
Thank you.
I am going for Majib on my bench at the moment, but interesting to see. I think a lot of people, these numbers are down his ownership because he's only been added late. But Josh Brown, the potential big cash cow heading into the year, if he is selected by the Heat, is another one as well. And then Tom Rogers as well. But a lot of these players, I think a lot of people will just be jumping on last minute if they are confirmed for the starting 11. But those are the main three for me.
Yeah, so mine was Vince. I'll stick with the one I said earlier on. I really like Vince. I like Majid because he plays in round 5. And, and I guess they were the two I was going to throw up. I come up with the idea without having something to back it up. That's Glenn.
I'm going to pick my pod in accordance to my strategy, and that's going hard in the double. So I'm not going to pick a pod that's not in the double. So if we're going off anything less than 10%, sounds good. I know NRL is a bit different, but I'm going to go Peter Siddle, 9.3% ownership. So, well, mate, you're the one that brought this pod thing up, mate. So you can eat your own words right now.
When I wrote it in big words, I wrote Siddle and Ty, and I thought I'm not going to mention either.
Don't mention Ty.
Siddle and Ty, but they're the two. I think they're both really good options, guys. Siddle and Ty. I really do. I think they're great options.
Awesome. All right, Damo, give us a shout out, or give yourself a shout out, mate. So our viewers can find out where to find you.
Yeah, you can find me across most of the social channels. So Facebook, just search Supercoach Edge. And then on Twitter, Supercoach_Edge as well. In an AFL sense anyway, for any keen AFL super coaches out there that watch your content, they would know as well that the AFL or Champion Data anyway have released the positions and DPP updates as well. So I'll run through that just briefly on the BBL Supercoach special episode that we've just released. So a bit of a rundown and thoughts on that as well. But yeah, jump on board. If you're keen, have a listen. We're on YouTube as well. Just search Supercoach Edge. So we are a podcast and a vodcast as well. A lot of meme related content and pop culture type references as well for a bit of fun. So check that out, and yeah, be keen to have you on board.
Awesome, mate. Thank you very much. So with our if you want to look for us, guys, we're literally just on Spotify and YouTube. That's it. So we'll post the links up in our Facebook page. So once again, I thank Ross for joining us and Glenn. Thanks heaps, mate. And I hope you get a decent score in round 1, eh?
Yeah, me too.
So.
My last year, first round 1, I got 670. I couldn't believe it. Like Max Bryant got 1,400 or something. It was like, stop it.
All right, guys. See you next week. Peace out.
Bye.
So you wanna be a champion?
Men plus the keeper around the batsman.
There we go. Fleming took the last one. Merv Hughes before him.
That's a hat-trick to Shane Warne, a great moment in his career. What a catch by David Boot. You won't see many better catches at forward short leg than that one. The Aussies are all around, and have a look at that.